Hi there. So far, we've already talked about the standard fonts, meaning the fonts that already come installed with an operating system. In this lesson, we're going to talk about non-standard fonts that don't come installed on an operating system. So these can be custom-made fonts, fonts that belong to a company, anything basically. Non-standard fonts can be both free or you might have to pay for them. In this lesson, we will show you two ways of connecting non-standard fonts. Let's start with the first approach. For example, there is a website with free fonts called fontsquirrel.com. So let's give that one a try right now. On this website, you see, there's a whole bunch of different fonts. You can download any of them so that you can use it on your website. And let's think about this for a second. So if you can download a font, that means that basically a font is just a file. Each file contains letters developed by a designer, and these designed fonts are then applied to the text by the browser. So when it comes to non-standard fonts, there are basically two types. Those that are designed only for a specific language, and those that are supported by multiple languages. That's why if your text is in a foreign language, it's important that you make sure you're using a font that actually supports it. Right, so on this side of the page, here in this sidebar, you can choose the category that you're interested in. Let's try, for example, calligraphic fonts. And I'm going to choose this font down here. To download it, we're going to click on the tab that says Web Font Kit. And as you can see, the site offers this font in different formats. So you might be thinking, so not only do I have to download the fonts, but now I have to bother with the different formats? Well, yeah, kind of. But the good news is that it's actually pretty simple, and you're going to see why just in a second. So the thing is, different browsers support different font formats. So that's why there's more than one font format. Obviously, that's not very convenient. Don't worry. In practice, you only have to really remember two of them. The WOLF format and the TTF or OTF format. To be honest, they are pretty much the same. In this table right here, you can see some of the most common formats and the browsers that they are supported by. So TTF, as you can see, is supported by Chrome from an earlier version and on. Also by Firefox, Safari, Opera, Edge, but only partly supported by Internet Explorer. However, the WOLF format is fully supported by Internet Explorer starting with version 9. And if you really need your font to be supported by a version of Internet Explorer older than 9, you'll have to also include the EOT format. But to be honest, these Internet Explorer versions are pretty outdated anyway. So please note that TTF, OTF, WOLF and EOT, these are the abbreviations for the fonts, and these abbreviations are also used for the font file extensions. But as for the actual full names of these formats, they're called, going in the same order, TrueType, OpenType, WOLF, and Embedded OpenType. And this is going to come in handy, so we will get back to it. Alright, so let's get back to our website. So now we know we need to download two small files, one with the WOLF format and another with the TTF format. So we're going to check these two boxes here, and we click Download. Alright, done. We got that. We can open the folder Web Fonts, and here you see that we have two files. We got TTF and we got WOLF. So they have the same name, but the extensions are different. Alright, so our next step is to connect the font to the website. To do that, in CSS we're going to write the following. First you need the @ symbol. And then we're going to write font face, and be sure to write it with a hyphen. And then we have the curly brackets. You can put several properties in the curly brackets, but for now we're only interested in two of them, font family and src, source. So the font family property specifies the font name in the file, meaning what is going to be called in your file, right? What is going to be referred to as. You can call it whatever you want, but I would strongly recommend to call it exactly what the font is called, because that's going to make it a lot easier to work with, so it's less confusing. Alright, so then the src property. It specifies the path to the font files. So here we're going to write URL, then parentheses, and without quotation marks, we're going to write the path to the font. Alright, so then we're going to write format, and once again parentheses, and this time in quotation marks, either single or double, it doesn't matter, we're going to write the name of the format, not the abbreviation of the format, the name of the format. So you would want to write TrueType, for example, instead of TTF, and OpenType instead of OTF, and so on. Alright, so then we're going to add a comma and connect another file the same way. So let's connect the file we downloaded. First of all, we need to place the downloaded font files in our website folder. So typically you would create a separate folder for fonts. Usually it's simply called fonts, so we're going to create that right now. We open it, and we drag the downloaded fonts into it. Alright, so we've got that done. And now we have two font files with the extensions TTF and WOF. Let's connect them to the CSS file. To do that, we open our style.css file in Sublime Text Editor, and here's where we write the @ symbol, then font face, and then in the curly brackets, we write the two properties. So the first property is font family, and as I've said before, it's better to name the font whatever the original name is, so it's better not to make up a new name for it. So here's the name of our font, and we just copy it. And we write the name in quotation marks. Okay, so the second property is src. So first, let's connect to the WOF format. For that, we're going to write URL, then we're going to write the path to the file. Alright, so you need to understand that we're already in the CSS folder when we are writing the path, right? So if we want to get to this font file first, we need to get out of the CSS folder that we are currently in. That's why we add these two dots. And the two dots mean that we're getting out of the CSS folder to a higher level. Then we need to enter the fonts folder, which is in the same parent folder as the CSS folder. So we're just going to write fonts, and then, now that we are in the fonts folder, just the name of the file that we need to connect to. So let's copy this name, and we're done. Alright, so now, after a space, and without any commas, we write format, then the parentheses, and in quotation marks we write the format, which is WOF in our case. And next, we're going to add a comma and connect another format. So another format that we could use is TTF. This format should always be connected after all the other ones. So let's write the path to the TTF file. So now we need to write the format, and for TTF it's gonna be true type. The name of TTF. So you can see it again in this table right here. Here at the end we're going to add a semicolon. If you want your fonts to be supported by Internet Explorer of a version below 9, right here before the WOF format, you need to write URL, connect to the EOT format, and in the format you write embedded OpenType. Alright, so now let's actually go ahead and test our font. So for that, in the HTML file, we're going to have a heading. Oh, we have a heading with the following text. It says, "Have a nice day." So for our H1, we're going to write the following. We're going to have font size 24 pixels, and then we're going to write font family. And here we're going to add the name of the font that we wrote right here, right? So let's see if it works. We open our file in the browser, and as you can see, the font looks just like we wanted it to look. Alright, so great. Please note that this font face needs to go before any other code where it gets referred to. So if we refer to it down here, that means that it needs to come before this part. And for that reason, it's better to always write the font face at the beginning of the page. Okay, great. So now you know the first method for connecting to non-standard fonts. So now, let's look at the second way of connecting to non-standard fonts. Fonts can also be connected using a third-party website. So one of the largest websites of this type is fonts.google.com. And to connect a font, we just go to the website, and then we're just going to use the search field to find the font we want. And we can just choose a font from the list on the page. So let's choose this one for example. And we need to click it, and then click Select this font. Here at the bottom of the page, we see this line right here. So let's click on it. And here we can see this link href thing right here. So basically, if we copy this entry and we paste it in the head of our HTML page, we will connect to the needed files on the Google Fonts. So this entry should be placed prior to connecting to our CSS file. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So let's just paste it right here. And now, as the Google Font website says, for H1 selector, we're going to add the following property, eliminate a cursive. We refresh the page, and now we can see that the font looks exactly like we wanted it to look. So that works as well. Alright, so this method has its own advantages. First of all, it's easier to connect to a third-party font. The second thing is that we don't need to worry about the browser support, because the website already ensures the font support for you. However, this method also has its disadvantages. For example, if the website fonts.google.com doesn't work, or any other site that contains the fonts that you are connecting to, then the font on your website is not going to work. Also, when you use a third-party website, your website needs to go to their website, and then it gets the information that it needs, and then it downloads it. All of this makes your website work slower. So that's why it's better to use the first method, where you download the font file, but you can use both methods as you see fit. Alright, that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.